have to, you don't have to panic. We are merely here to save the planet. We won't be complacent in this damage. This is vital information, take advantage.
I'm Terrell Jackson, the pastor of the Macedonia Baptist Church of Bel Air Cove, just outside of Ville Platte, Louisiana. We may be just a little difficult to find, but when you get here, you'll realize you're right at home. The mission of our church is the same mission Jesus gave over 2,000 years ago, and that's to reach the lost for his kingdom. We hope you're encouraged by today's gospel presentation because it's tailor-made for you. If you're a regular with us, you already know about our mobile app and its many resources. If you're new to us, go to our website, and there you can learn more about us. You can also go to the link that says, I'm new, tell us more about you. Also, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our lives are super busy. And just in case you miss us on Sundays in our live stream, on Wednesdays in our Bible exploration, you can go to our website or to our mobile app, and there you can find all of our previous sermons or Bible studies. At Macedonia, we have a motto where we say we love you to life. So come to Macedonia and experience the life-transforming power of the Word of God, and you'll see why we love you to life.
You don't have to, you don't have to.
Good evening. I want to thank you for joining us once again at the Macedonia Baptist Church back in beautiful Bel Air Cove. Man, I'm excited about tonight's conversation. I got my lovely ride or die once again with me, Lady J. Betsy Jackson. I, the humble pastor, man, I'm so thankful and to be able to pastor such a wonderful group of people who are constantly praying for me, who are constantly encouraging me. And I just want to let the world know how grateful I am and fortunate to God to be able to be the under shepherd here with such a great group of people. Truly thankful for them. And man, on tonight, we're going to be talking about probably my favorite character in all of the Bible next to Jesus. And this young man, Joseph, and y'all know the story. And if you don't, the coat of many colors. Joseph was the favorite son of Israel or Jacob, and Joseph goes through has some trouble in his life. I mean, his life is filled with trouble, and tonight is topic for tonight's lesson is how to progress through pitfalls.
See, that's a tongue twister.
It is. But how to progress while you're going through the challenges of life. And if anybody had some challenges in life, it was Joseph.
He certainly did.
And man, I want y'all to tune in on Sunday because I'm going to give a little bit of more of the background about Joseph and some of the things that he has to contend with. Because a lot of times the things that we have to contend with aren't on the surface. Sometimes there are things that are in us that are some family stuff, some things that we've got that are inherent or inherited in us that are produced by our families. And Joseph is probably the greatest example of how there's some family dysfunction that causes him to go through some of the things that he's gone through, but he teaches us how to handle it.
Yes, he does.
And so his life is really, outside of Jesus, one of the greatest examples of how to progress through the pitfalls of life.
Yes.
And so let's jump right in. I want to give us the background about how we got here, where we are. Last week we didn't get a chance to go through chapter number 37, but in chapter 37, Joseph is the favorite son of his father, gives him this beautiful coat. And Joseph has some brothers, and his brothers are jealous because his father favors him. And because he's favored, his brothers now plot to kill him. But they don't kill him. One of the brothers pops up and says, no, let's not kill him. Let's just, let's make it seem like something bad happened to him. But what we're going to do is we're going to sell him off into slavery. And so they sell him to these Ishmaelites who are Joseph's really cousins.
Yes.
And so they sell him to that. And then the Ishmaelites take him into Egypt, where we find ourselves right now in chapter number 39. And while he's in Egypt, he's sold into the house of a man named Potiphar. And while he's in Potiphar's house, now I want y'all to think about this. His brothers don't like him, and he was thrown in a pit. He's taken out of the pit, sold into slavery, and then now he's a slave.
Yes, he is.
And he's a slave right now because when you look at Egypt, Egypt represents the world. Every time you see Egypt portrayed or depicted in the Bible, it represents the world and the world's way of doing things. And so now here's this godly man living in the world, and he's trying to live a good life while still dealing with some family hurt, still dealing with some issues that's going on.
He still wants to live a life that honors God.
Yes.
Even though he is in a place where God is not honored.
Yeah. And so tonight I want us to think about this world that we live in, because man, when we come in on Sunday, the conditions are ripe for worship. But when we come in on Sunday mornings, sometimes, we bring all of that hurt and that baggage with us, all of the things, the job, the marriage relationship, or our friendships, all of those things we bring into the worship service with us, our children, things that we're struggling with, our financial conditions, our families who talk about us and we bring all of those things in this perfect or what should be a perfect atmosphere. And we don't allow this atmosphere to be what it should be because we bring all of that baggage in with us.
And I think we should bring it, but we ought to do like the youth and the young adults saying on Sunday, leave it at the altar.
Yes.
Because this is a place where you should be able to bring your hurts, your struggles, your pain, your disappointments, but you don't want to leave with them. Leave them at the altar, at the feet of God, because he is able to relieve you of those burdens that you carry.
Right. And so when we look at verse number 2, Joseph brings all of this stuff with him.
With him. Yes, he
with
does.
him.
Yes, he does.
And because he doesn't complain, he doesn't, voice his disapproval, this is what God does for him.
Yes.
Says that the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a successful man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. Mm-hmm. And I think it's interesting when I told you that Egypt represents the world and the world's way of doing things. So when in verse number 2, when it says he's in the house of the Egyptian, he's now in the world system of doing things. But even though he's in the world system of doing things, God is still blessing him. God is still with him, despite of all of the things that's gone on in his life. God is still with Joseph.
Yes.
And I think we underestimate the presence of God in our lives.
Yes.
That we think that just because we may be like Joseph is a slave now, and now he's working at somebody else's whim. Just because our conditions aren't what they should be or what we think they should be, a lot of times we don't think that God is with us. Mm-hmm. But last night I introduced, not necessarily introduced, but I really kind of shared with those who were with us on our Tuesday evening Zoom about the providence, the divine providence of God.
Yes.
It is how God can see down into our future, and he can carefully orchestrate things to work out for our good. Even though things aren't good right now, God is behind the scenes and with great care putting us in position so that while we're going through something, us going through that thing is to help us for what we're going to need wherever it is that he's taking us.
That's right. Yes, absolutely.
And so I think we all of us want to start up here, but many of us don't want to spend time where Joseph is.
Mm-hmm.
And Joseph is 17 years old when he's sold into slavery. And if you continue to read the story, he's somewhere around 30 years old when he gets to become second in command where Pharaoh is concerned. But Joseph has this dream. If I might back up a little bit, he's got this dream about how he's going to be in charge of everything. But he's 17 now.
Yes.
And at 17, and very early on, sometimes in our walk with God, sometimes we think that things ought to happen just like that, or happen when we think it, when we think it ought to happen. But God has timing. But even though we're not where we're supposed to be, you have to be like, recognize the hand of God.
Yes.
And if you can't recognize the hand of God, just listen to the people that you're around.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to them talk about how blessed you might be. It happens in Joseph's life. Read number 3.
And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all he did to prosper in his hand.
So sometimes we can't see it, but others can see it. And when others tell us, man, you're blessed. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we downplay that, because we're not where we see ourselves. But if others can see the hand of God on your life, then you ought to be able to say, well, they see something that I can't see. I know I'm not where I want to be, but it's got to be God who's moving in my life so that he can teach me how to be prosperous while I go through this process. And
we have to make sure we recognize that it's the Lord that makes us prosper. Oftentimes we want to think it is our own abilities, our own talents, gifts, but Joseph's story reminds us that it is God who causes us to prosper, especially when we're where we're supposed to be. Yes. If you're in the will of God, then God is going to put you in a place where he is going to cause you to be successful if you're in where he wants you to be. And somebody says when he's in slavery, but even in this season of slavery, yes, he's still being prosperous where he is. Right. Because he's still in the place where God wanted him to be, even though it is an uncomfortable place. And I think that sometimes we find ourselves in uncomfortable places and we're in a hurry to get out of that place. But God wants us there. He's trying to teach us something, get something to us. Or there may be someone while you're in that uncomfortable place that he has designated to connect with you, intersect with you. Right. And if you're not where you're supposed to be, then you can't impact the life of the person that he has to come in your path. Yeah, you have to be able to learn to grow where you're planted. And yes, sometimes we want to plant ourselves in places, but you've got to be able to grow where you planted. Yes, bloom where you are planted. Yes, you have to be able to do that. In verse number 4, it talks about how Joseph found favor in his master's sight, mm-hmm, and he served him. And then because of that, then his master made him overseer over everything in his house. And so now Joseph just imagine this. You're the servant. Yes. But you run the house. My goodness. Man, I don't know if I know what that feels like. Mm. I know what that feels like to be at the bottom of the totem pole, mm-hmm, but they depend on you for everything. Mm-hmm. But that's the mentality of a servant. Yes. When God can trust you to serve, mm-hmm, he'll put you over everything. That's the being faithful over a few things. If you're not excited about what God has placed in your hands now, man, you have to just be faithful over that. When people ask me what time I wake up in the morning, I tell them, man, why do you get up so early? Man, because every morning there are new mercies. Mm-hmm. And so I wake up to get the new mercy that God has for me. Yes. And I'm excited about that. Every day there's a challenge. Every day there's a pitfall. But I know that God, if I put it in his hand, he's going to cause me to
to prosper through all of the pitfalls that I'm experiencing.
And I would say, based on Joseph's life and his story, if you want to be elevated, first put yourself in the position and the posture of a servant.
You have to.
If you want God to elevate
Yes.
you, let me put it like that, because man will promote you. But if you want to be elevated, and elevated in a way where if God puts you there, I don't care what man tries to do, he will open doors that nobody can close.
Yeah.
And so for Joseph, God orchestrated these events, but it's God who allowed him to be elevated because he served, and he served well.
And we certainly have to get that mentality.
We
want to be served more than anything than
want to
serve, want to be
a servant of others.
Yes,
absolutely.
And so I want you to begin to read these next few, especially not after this verse. I want us to see what happened while things were in Joseph's hand.
Okay.
That when you truly take on that servant's mentality, verse number 5 teaches us that God will do some things that for the people who are around you.
Yes, he will. That the people that are connected
to you. The people that are connected to you, even though you are, because if I'm working for you, then sometimes we're working for people that we don't want God to bless.
Come on.
Now I'm under you. And the flow, while it may come through you, if it doesn't come to you, then it can't come through you.
That's right.
And sometimes we're working in places where we don't mean the boss any good.
Yes.
Like the boss is no good, and so when you don't even pray for the boss. But if you would pray for the boss to prosper, whatever the boss has, it then flows.
Yes, it does.
It flows through the boss into you. And we miss out on some of our best blessings because we don't like the boss's style. We don't like how they do things. And so we miss out on those things. But look at what happens with Joseph. Read 5 for me.
So it was from the time that he had made him overseer of his house and all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of the Lord was on all that he had in the house and in the field.
I'm going to skip over what I want to talk about over here.
Yeah. There's some shouting stuff right here.
It really is. So I'm going to save that shout for Sunday. But what happens is that it flows not just out of Joseph's house, but in the field. That's what overflow looks like.
Out of Potiphar's house. Yeah.
But it flows through Potiphar. And Potiphar is the boss is blessed because of Joseph. Sometimes your job, your place, your house could be blessed simply because you are there.
Right.
Because God honors you, honors your faithfulness. And you're looking around and you're saying, man, why things aren't flowing the way they should? It's probably because you're not in the posture that you should be in.
Yes.
You haven't taken on the role of a servant.
Yes.
So read these next few verses.
Thus he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he did not know what he had except for the bread which he ate.
Could you imagine working in such a place where that you do a job so well that the boss doesn't even concern himself with what it is that you do. And you ought to want to grow to that, where
Absolutely.
I do such a great job that they don't even concern themselves with what it is that I do. That's a good servant. That's when God comes and saying, good and faithful servant.
Yes.
But even when you're good and you're faithful, you're still going to have to deal with pitfalls.
Pitfalls, yes. Absolutely.
Here is where the story takes a turn.
Yes.
Here's where it takes a real turn. Potiphar's wife sees Joseph.
And the Bible says Joseph is a handsome, and he's good looking, and he's got a nice physique.
Why you haven't even seen Joseph? Why are you smiling and grinning?
I'm just saying what the Bible says.
Now you want to talk about
that he had
I digress. Let's move on.
His physical appearance, and he was handsome.
Let's move on.
Come on, Pastor.
So Joseph's wife sees
Potiphar's
wife sees Joseph, good looking, handsome, fine fella, as you say.
Yes.
And she now has her eye on him. And now she's then trying to get him to come to sleep with him. Read these next few verses. Read this.
So it was, as she spoke to Joseph day by day, that he did not heed her to lie with her or to be with her. But it happened about this time when Joseph went into the house to do his work, and none of the men of the house was inside, that she caught him by his garment, saying, lie with me. But he left his garment in her hand and fled and ran outside.
Well, before we get to this part, to number 12, I want us to understand something about sin. What sin does is it first casts its eye on you. Sin is looking for you. Sin is looking for you.
Yes, it is.
The Bible says that Satan is as a roaring lion. What is he doing?
Walking to him for seeking.
Looking. He's looking
for whom.
And so that's what sin does. Sin is looking for you. And sometimes we go looking for sin, but I want you to know you don't have to go looking for sin.
I think it was in Genesis where God told Cain, sin is crouching at your door.
Yes, yeah, it's just sitting
right
there waiting. And so what happens is, so now, but sin is bold. Sin is so bold that it's not just content with looking for you.
No.
It says in the verse that she grabbed hold to him.
Yes, she did. She caught him.
She caught him. And man, I just want to, that thing right there, he's going in the house day by day by day. And she's watching him, and she keep asking him every single day, man, come on in out the rain, man. Come on in the room. Yeah. She's telling, I can imagine, man, every
come on
day
over to my place.
Yes, all of that.
Hey,
turn off the lights.
Yes.
Light a candle.
Come on now. Come on.
But all of those things, I can see it happening.
Yes.
But yet even though he could say, man, I've been doing all of this for my boss.
Yes.
I deserve this. Man, shucks. He always gone all the time. He doesn't do anything. Look at this woman, man. She fine. Somebody needs to take care of her. He could feel like he's entitled.
Yes,
and that happens to us a lot.
Yes.
Where we feel like we're the one who makes it do what it do. And so we feel like we're entitled. So we take things that don't belong to us.
Right.
We take liberties that we shouldn't take. But Joseph is our example.
Yes,
it says that Joseph, while she grabbed hold to him, he ran away so fast that he
left his garment in her hand.
Man, she had a strong hold on him.
Yes, she did.
Let's go on. We're running out of time. but you have to be able to be a true person of integrity.
That's right.
To be able to move on. But here's what sin will do. And I want to caution you because there are some things, and we got to move quickly. Number 13 says that, so it was that when she saw that he had left his garment out, in her hand and fled outside, that she called the men of the house and she spoke to them saying, see, he has, talking about her husband, brought in us this Hebrew to mock us. He came in to lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice. And it happened when he heard that I lifted my voice and I cried out, that he left his garment with me and he fled outside of the house. First thing she does is will destroy your name. That's the first thing. It'll attempt to destroy your name. And so right now she's put that out there. And then the next thing, when you continue to read, that sin will then destroy your life. But what she did was she stereotyped him.
Yes, she did.
She stereotyped him, said that this Hebrew,
yes.
This man of color comes in and look at what he does.
That's right.
And sometimes we can feel some kind of way when people treat us a certain way based on the color of our skin. But I want y'all to notice through this entire epic, Joseph never
He doesn't try to defend himself.
Never defends himself, never
Nope.
lashes out, never gets angry or anything like that. What we've got to learn to do sometimes when we're going through some things is just simply keep silent.
Yes. Hold your peace and let the Lord fight your battle.
And God was doing something, because
Yes,
we
he
don't
was.
know what God, a lot of times we don't know what God is doing in our lives. And sometimes we could open up our mouth and we could mess it up.
Yes, we can.
If you know that life and death is in the power of the tongue, then if you have to say, am I speaking life or am I speaking death? And if you don't know what it is that you're speaking, the best thing you probably ought to want to do is just keep quiet.
And if you're a person of integrity, then not only will your life speak for you, but then other people who know you are a person of
Right.
integrity also, they'll come to your defense.
And it's easy, especially for people of color, to notice that there is, because this is racism at its finest. They're saying because he's Hebrew.
He's a Hebrew.
That's just what they do.
And she cried rape.
Right. And so it's easy for, say, people to get offended when it seems like the racism is blatant, but you have to certainly temper your responses so that you don't fall victim to what the enemy is trying to do, because the enemy is trying to keep you from getting to the place that God would have for you to be. Read 16:17.
So she kept his garment with her until his master came home. Then she spoke to him, this is Potiphar, with words like these, saying, the Hebrew servant whom you brought to us came into me to mock me.
So now sin then takes the next step. First, it wants to destroy your name. The next thing it wants to do is it wants to destroy you.
Destroy your life.
It really wants to take
Yeah.
your life. So when she tells him, now the Potiphar now is so angry that now he then puts Joseph in prison. So he goes from the pit to Potiphar's house, and God still, while he's in this pitiful condition, still causing him to prosper.
Absolutely.
Then he's now going into prison. And while he's now in prison, when you get to verse number 20, read 20 and 21 for me.
Then Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were confined, and he was there in prison. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy, and he gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison.
Man, 20 said he was in prison. And man, somebody would be having a like crying, snot rolling down, because he's a good boy. It's his first time ever being in any kind of trouble like that. This boy comes from a good Christian house.
That would be me.
Anybody else would be like a mess right now.
Yes.
And it happens also that sometimes we could be in situations where, you've been thrust in a new environment, and now you are a mess. You falling apart. But what I like about what happens is that verse number 21 comes along. Says, but the Lord. The Lord was with Joseph.
Everybody needs a but the Lord in their lives.
You have to realize that it doesn't matter where you are. If God is with you,
the Lord.
If God is for you, who can be against you? And you've got to know that if God is on your side, it doesn't matter whether you're in a pit, Potiphar's house, or in prison.
Yes, Lord.
That if God is with you, that man, and it says that when you continue to read that, it says that, and the Lord was with him, showed him mercy, and then caused everything. In prison
to prosper.
My
God, they were prospering in the prison.
And then it says in 22 that the fellow who was the keeper of the prison,
the warden,
he's supposed to be keeping the prison.
Come on.
But he put it in Joseph's hand to keep the prison.
He let the prisoner keep the prison.
Listen,
he done gave the keys to the prison to the prison.
Listen, this is not y'all who know prison You know about prison and
This
stuff that
don't
they
happen.
got trustees.
Yeah, no.
This doesn't happen with
No,
the
no.
trustees.
The trustees get to go outside and cut the grass.
Yeah,
and
wash the
vehicles,
that
but they
kind of
don't
thing.
get the keys to the prison, and they certainly don't get elevated above the other prisoners. It
Right.
just doesn't happen.
And so,
But the Lord.
but God is with you, and I want to
Yes,
tell people
God. When God is with
how
you.
to prosper and how to when you're going through your pitfalls.
Yes.
How to be successful.
Yes.
When you progress through all of your pitfalls. Yes, I'm not where I want to be, but man, if you recognize that God is with you, you can prosper.
But we got to remember and go back a few verses. Joseph held on to his integrity.
Yes.
Joseph held on to his faith in God. He continued to honor God even though he's accused of a crime he did not do. And Potiphar's wife did all she could to get Joseph to get out of his character and lay with her. Joseph said, no, I'm not doing it. And because he held on to his integrity, he kept his character, then God shows up for Joseph.
I think we've got one more verse to cover. I think is that the last one we've got?
Yes.
All right. But listen, before we get to the last verse, y'all know what we normally do around about this time. But because for the sake of time, y'all go and give to our scholarship fund. Give to our scholarship fund. Go to Givelify. Go to our mobile app through our Subsplash giving platform or Cash app. And make sure you let us know that it's for our scholarship fund, that you can help some young person along the way. So while y'all doing that, we're going to tell y'all about
the end of the story.
End of the story.
Come on, Pat.
Well, it's not the end of the story.
No, but it's just the end of the prison story.
The prison story.
Yeah.
The keeper of the prison did not look into anything that was under Joseph's authority.
Yes.
Because the Lord was with him. And whatever he did, it was the Lord who made it prosper.
By God.
Joseph understood a lesson that I'm still trying to master. I've got it a little bit, but I'm trying to master is that it's not me who makes the thing do.
No.
Everything that I touch, it's not me who makes it prosper.
No.
It is God,
who
does that.
Yes.
All I've got to, know that it doesn't matter where I am.
No.
Whether it's in the palace or whether it's in the pit, whether it's in prison, or in Potiphar's house. If I allow God to do his thing, just stand back and let
God.
But listen, Joseph did some things. I don't want us to say you can't just sit back and wait on the blessings of God. Right. There are some things that Joseph did because it says that everything that Joseph did,
yes, that's right.
God caused it to prosper. A lot of us don't want to do anything, but we want the prosper part.
Yes.
We don't want to have to struggle and strive. Joseph had to gain the notoriety. He had to do some things so that the prison keeper could notice what it was that he was doing. Even when he was in Potiphar's house, he wasn't the only slave there.
That's right.
He stood out because of what he did.
Yes.
And you want God to take notice of you and you don't want to do anything.
You don't want to serve.
You've got to get to the point where when God is looking for somebody, it's already did. See, you missed the word did.
No, I didn't miss it.
See,
it's whatever he did.
Yes, whatever he did. A lot of us want it well done, but don't want to did it.
That's not good English.
But I'm telling you, it preach good though. It's the thing that we all want something special, but we don't want to do anything special.
Come on, Pastor.
If you want God to prosper you where you are, no matter where you are, you got to do something. Stop soaking. Stop moking around. Get up and do something.
Do something. And do something for the Lord.
Yes. And when you do that,
do it for the Lord.
Whatever you did, God will make it prosper.
Yes, he will. Yes, he will. But before we go, got some shout outs right quick. Shout out to Sister Verna.
Hey.
Sister Savona,
Hey.
Sister Nicole,
My people.
and Sister Jackie Johnson,
Hey, Sister Jackie, that's the First Lady Ambassador.
and Michelle Lamel.
Hey, Michelle, all the way
Oh,
over in.
and Miss Barbara Victoria.
Hey, look at Miss Dot. That's my boss right there.
Shout out to all of y'all tonight.
Listen, thank y'all for joining us. Shout out to Sister Helen and Brother Pat in the building, and my boy Jarrell, who is on the ones and twos back there. I just want to thank you all for joining us. Y'all have a great evening. And as always, we love you to life.
Love you to life.